The sound of the front door closing was not a slam, but a sigh of soft, final exhalation of a love that had simply run out of air. For a moment, Liam stood on the weathered porch of the little blue house, his back to the life he was leaving. The late afternoon sun cast long, melancholy shadows, stretching his own form into a gaunt giant that pointed towards the empty street. His duffel bag, packed with the husks of his belongings, felt heavier than it should. Inside that bag was a faded t-shirt from a concert they'd gotten caught in the rain after, a book of poetry he'd read to her on their first anniversary, a ghost of a future he'd once believed in with every fiber of his being. "Just keep walking," he commanded himself, his knuckles white around the strap of the bag. "It's cleaner this way for her."
Not for you. Just walk.
Alina was inside, he knew. She was probably standing in the living room they had painted together, a color called buttercream sunlight, her arms wrapped around herself as if holding her own breaking heart in place. He could still see the devastation in her eyes, the silent plea she hadn't voiced. He had said the words that could not be unsaid. "I can't do this anymore, Alina. I'm not the man you need me to be." It was the truth, but it was a coward's truth. The real, ugly truth was a tumor of fear growing inside him. Fear of not being enough, of failing as a husband, of repeating the sins of his own absent father. So he was leaving before he could be left. It was a preemptive strike against a future heartbreak, a strategy that guaranteed one in the present. He took one step, then another. The gravel of the path crunched under his boots like tiny bones. Don't look back. Don't you dare look back. His hand was on the gate latch, the cold metal a shock against his palm. This was it, the point of no return. He would get in his car, drive until the radio stations turned to static, try to forget the way her laughter used to sound like the first day of spring, and then a small voice, thin and wobbly, pierced the twilight. "Liam." He froze, his spine rigid. It was Leo, Elena's 6-year-old son. Their Leo, for the last 3 years anyway. The boy who had taught him how to properly assemble a Lego spaceship, who had sticky-fingered hugs and a faith in Liam that was as absolute as it was terrifying. Liam slowly turned. Leo stood on the porch, his small frame silhouetted in the golden light from the open door. He was clutching Mr. Hops, a ragged stuffed rabbit Liam had won for him at a carnival. "You forgot Mr. Hops?" Leo said, his lower lip trembling. The air left Liam's lungs. "No, buddy. I didn't forget him. He belongs with you." Leo's brow furrowed, a perfect miniature echo of Elena's expression when she was trying to solve a difficult problem. "What, you're leaving?" It wasn't a question, it was an accusation, a simple, devastating statement of fact. "I have to, Leo." The words were ash in his mouth. "Why?" The question was a blade, so innocent and so direct, it cut through all of Liam's adult justifications. "Why? Because I'm scared. Because I don't know how to be happy. Because I think I'll destroy it all eventually, so I might as well get it over with." None of that could be explained to a child. Sometimes. Grown-up things are complicated, Liam managed, the weakest of all possible answers. Tears welled in Leo's big brown eyes, spilling over and tracing clean paths down his dusty cheeks. He took a shaky step forward, his small shoes scuffing on the wooden porch. "Please," Leo whispered, his voice breaking. "Please don't leave my mom." The world stopped. Those 6 words, uttered with the raw, unfiltered desperation of a child, hit Liam with the force of a physical blow. They weren't just a plea for Liam to stay. They were a key, turning in a lock Liam didn't even know existed. They unlocked a flood of images. Alina exhausted after a double shift, still helping Leo with his reading. Alina saving for months to buy him the bicycle he wanted. Lena, her own heart, a fortress of old wounds, still brave enough to let Liam inside. Leo wasn't just asking for a man to stay. He was asking for the father he'd chosen, for the shield he'd come to rely on, for the constellation of their little family to remain whole. Liam's resolve, the fragile wall he'd built around his heart, crumbled into dust. He saw the duffel bag not as an escape, but as a betrayal. He saw the car not as freedom, but as a prison of his own making. How could he walk away from this boy? How could he walk away from her? His own eyes burned as he dropped the duffel bag. It landed with a soft, definitive thud. He walked back to the porch, his legs unsteady, and knelt before Leo, bringing himself to the boy's eye level. "I'm not leaving," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. He reached out and wiped a tear from Leo's cheek with his thumb. "I'm not going anywhere, buddy. I promise." A sob of relief escaped Leo, and he launched himself into Liam's arms, burying his face in his neck. Liam held him tight, the scent of little boy grass and sunshine, an innocence filling him with a purpose so sharp and clear it was painful. He stood, lifting Leo effortlessly, and carried him back to the door. Lena was there, just as he'd pictured her, standing in the hallway. But her expression wasn't one of victory or relief. It was a complex tapestry of hope, fear, and a deep, profound sorrow. "Leo, sweetheart," she said softly, her voice raspy from unshed tears, "why don't you go set the table for dinner? I need to talk to Liam for a minute." Leo, reassured by Liam's presence, nodded and scampered off towards the kitchen. Mr. Hops dangling from his hand. The silence in the hallway was heavy, charged with everything that had been said and everything that hadn't. Liam took a step towards her. "Alina, I'm so sorry. I was an idiot. I was scared." She held up a hand, stopping him. Her eyes, those beautiful, soulful eyes he'd fallen in love with, were pools of an unbearable truth. "Liam," she interrupted, her voice barely a whisper.
"Ow!"
She took a deep, shuddering breath as if steeling herself for a fall. "You can't make him a promise like that." "I mean it this time," he insisted, his heart pounding, desperate to make her believe him. Hearing him say that, it changed everything. "I'm not walking away. I'm going to be the man you both deserve. I'm going to be his father." A single tear finally escaped and traced a path down her cheek. She looked at him with a love so immense it seemed to fill the entire space between them, love that was now tinged with a gut-wrenching agony. "Liam," she repeated, her voice breaking. "You can't be his father." She swallowed hard, her gaze dropping to the floor for a moment before meeting his again, steady and devastating. "You already are." The words hung in the air, incomprehensible. Liam stared at her, his mind reeling, trying to find their meaning. "What are you talking about?" he whispered. "I never told you," she said, her words coming in a rushed, pained torrent now. "I was going to after the wedding. Then you started pulling away. I was so afraid it would be the final thing that drove you off." She wrapped her arms around herself again, a solitary figure against the buttercream sunlight walls. "Leo, he's yours. Biologically. That one night a month before we met, it was a donor clinic. Anonymous donor. Your file number was 814. The number echoed in the silence of Liam's mind. 814. His old locker combination. The number he'd used in a brief, pragmatic period of his life, when he'd thought helping strangers was easier than building a family of his own. The twist. A fate was so cruel, so perfect, it stole the breath from his lungs. He hadn't almost walked away from a ready-made family. He'd almost walked away from his own son. He looked down the hall towards the kitchen, where his son, was clumsily arranging plates on a table, humming a tuneless little song. The love that swelled in his chest was immediately strangled by a wave of nausea. He had been on the precipice of abandoning him, of repeating the very cycle he had sworn to break. He turned back to Alina, the woman who had carried his child, who had raised their son, who had loved him despite his flaws, and who had held this impossible secret, fearing it would be the very thing that shattered them. The door had sighed shut, but it had not closed. It had been blown off its hinges. The drama of a man leaving his lover was over. The real heartbreaking and miraculous story of a father finding his son, and a man truly seeing the woman he loved for the first time, had just begun.